Hey guys! A classmate asked, what are hurricanes? So in today's video, we're going to be looking at not only what hurricanes are, but also how they are studied and classified by scientists and meteorologists, as well as important information needed to keep communities safe during hurricane season. So what is hurricane season? Well, hurricane season is a distinct time of year when tropical cyclones, which include tropical depressions, tropical storms, and hurricanes, usually develop. On a worldwide scale, May is the least active month for hurricanes, while September is the most active. The Atlantic hurricane season, which is a period in a year when hurricanes usually form in the Atlantic Ocean, has a distinct hurricane season that can occur from June 1st to November 30th, sharply peaking around late August through September. Therefore, the United States is approaching the peak of 2020's hurricane season, and with this season being the first on record in which 9 tropical storms formed before August 1st. So far this year, of the 10 named storms that have formed, 5 have affected the U.S., including Tropical Storms Bertha, Cristobal, and Faye, and Hurricanes Hannah and Isaias. However, while summer storms bring significant amounts of rain and wind to the areas they affect, these storms are not all the same. Tropical depressions are the first stage of a tropical weather event, with wind gusts at 38 miles per hour or 33 knots or less. They can bring significant amounts of rain, thunderstorms, and devastating floods. They can also be referred to as tropical waves, disturbances, features, or systems. Tropical storms are the next level of tropical weather events and are classified by their sustained wind speeds of 39 to 73 miles per hour or 34 to 63 knots with organized circulation. Tropical storms produce large amounts of rain and can cause enough wind and wave activity to damage boats and erode beaches. Storm systems as categorized as hurricanes when they have sustained winds of over 74 miles per hour or 64 knots, and a spiral arrangement of thunderstorms with low pressure center. Hurricanes are the most dangerous and devastating type of tropical system. These systems can also be classified as typhoons, but this term is usually reserved for storms in the Pacific Ocean, while those in the Atlantic are called hurricanes. Therefore, a hurricane starts out as a tropical disturbance, grows into a tropical depression, becomes a tropical storm, and finally turns into a hurricane, all classified by their increasing wind speed. Note that both tropical storms and hurricanes are classified by meteorologists using the Saffir-Simpson scale. The Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale bases categories on wind speed aligned with the following groups, from category 1 to 5. Two main ingredients are needed to create hurricanes: warm water and constant wind speed. Warm ocean waters provide the energy a storm needs to become a hurricane. Usually the surface water temperature must be 26 degrees Celsius or 79 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for a hurricane to form, while constant wind speed ensures that storms aren't ripped apart due to changing heights. When humid air is flowing upward at a zone of low pressure over warm ocean water, the water is released from the air as creating the clouds of the storm. As it rises, the air in a hurricane rotates. Air drawn to the center of a hurricane curves to the right in the northern hemisphere and toward the left in the southern hemisphere due to the Coriolis effect, which is the result of the Earth's rotation. The Earth's rotation causes hurricanes to accelerate toward the poles if a current doesn't steer them otherwise. Storms grow if there is a continuous supply of energy from more ocean water and warm, moist air. However, since near the equator there is no Coriolis effect, hurricanes cannot form within 300 miles or 500 kilometers of the region. Storms also weaken when they move over areas with cooler ocean water, since there isn't nearly as much energy in the water to fuel the storm and there isn't as much humidity in the air. Hurricanes also become weak when traveling over land. More than one hurricane can occur at a time. Therefore, naming hurricanes can make it easier to keep track of and talk about these storms. Note that a storm is given a name only if it becomes a tropical storm, and that name stays with the storm if it goes on to become a hurricane. Tropical disturbances and depressions, on the other hand, don't have any names. Each year, tropical storms are named in alphabetical order. The names come from a list of names for that year. There are 6 lists of names, and lists are reused every 6 years. If a storm does a lot of damage, its name is sometimes taken off the list. It is then replaced by a new name that starts with the same letter. In North America, the U.S. National Hurricane Center, or NHC, issues advisories like hurricane warnings and wind watches. The agency also upgrades and downgrades storm types based on the formation of activity and wind speeds. To gather information about tropical systems, the NHC issues reconnaissance aircraft missions into storms to determine data such as wind speeds, which can help classify the storm. It also uses vessels, equipment on islands, and buoys to gather data. So what do we need to know about these images and data? In hurricane forecasting, you might have seen this graphic often. formerly known as the NHC Track Forecast Cone, or the Cone of Uncertainty. The cone represents the probable track of the center of a tropical cyclone, and is formed by enclosing the area swept out by a set of circles along the forecast track at 12, 24, 36, and so on hours. Therefore, this map does not show where the storm will actually go. It shows where the storm might go. And the cone that extends out from the storm represents where the center of the storm is likely to end up as the storm moves. So while this image can tell us a lot, we need to know that the track of such a hurricane can always change, and that just because the cone follows this path, areas near it could still feel the effects, including force winds and flooding, as hurricanes are huge and can span hundreds of miles across. These images also tell us what category hurricane we have. But remember, these categories only tell us about wind speed and nothing else. And while high winds could destroy buildings, water is usually the most detrimental part of a hurricane, with the Saffir-Simpson categories telling us nothing about the flooding that these hurricanes can cause. Therefore, it's important to also remember that weaker storms don't make them less dangerous, as Category 1 hurricanes and even tropical storms can cause a lot of damage. For more information about storm surges and flood risks, the National Weather Service publishes maps that show how much ocean water flooding they're predicting along the coast when a hurricane is approaching. They also publish rain total predictions, especially as storms get closer to land. You can also go directly to the National Hurricane Center website or look at both entities' social media accounts to gain the most up-to-date information about hurricanes as they form and approach different communities. Oftentimes, local news channels and emergency officials also provide up-to-date and accurate information about the impacts of these tropical weather events in your local community, including evacuation orders and in-depth knowledge of local drainage systems to predict which areas are most in danger of flooding and the impacts of these weather events. I hope this video helped you to learn more about hurricanes.